Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Spurs from the Stands. I'm, of course, Sarah. Welcome along if you are joining us for the very first time and you're new around here. We have a few updates today. Of course, it's been quite a quiet few days for once around Tottenham Hotspur, so I decided to give myself a little bit of time off yesterday over this Easter bank holiday weekend, and I hope you're all enjoying this lovely sunshine if you are in the UK. We have a few updates. Of course, it has been the FA Cup weekend, and so Tottenham Hotspur have not been playing, although we have been relishing in Arsenal's unfortunate mishap in getting knocked out of the FA Cup against Southampton. And it turns out the quadruple is still on for Arsenal because they could still finish second for the fourth year in a row. That aside, we can't get too excited too quickly about our arch rivals because it looks like we could still be in a relegation battle. And as much as the momentum has felt like it's shifted behind the scenes at Tottenham Hotspur, of course, we haven't had a game yet. And so all is going to tell this weekend when we learn more about how the squad is being set up and what we can expect from the season going forward, since we are in the midst of in the thick of it this season with 7 games left to go. The highlight of the weekend, in my personal opinion, has been the West Ham versus Leeds game, which of course was a very intense battle yesterday on the pitch. Leeds kind of threw it away towards the end of the game, and West Ham managed to get back into it, and it went all the way to penalties. And I am quite glad to see that Leeds has indeed progressed to the next stage. So it looks like, from what we can see, I think Man City face Southampton in the semi-finals, and Chelsea, it looks like, will be facing Leeds. In other news, our very own Mason Melia came on in his very first debut in the under-21s, and he came on at 67 minutes and managed to score in the 70th minute. So it's great to see him getting his debut for the Tottenham Hotspur Academy. They beat West Ham yesterday, I believe it was, she says. No, they beat West Ham on Saturday 3-2. As I mentioned, but I didn't mention a couple of days ago when I covered that Mason Melia was one of our youngsters who came on in his debut. So that's great news for him. In other news, we also have Donnelly, who is out on loan at Oxford. This afternoon, they played Portsmouth in a relegation fight in the Championship. That was a big 6-pointer game, 10-man Portsmouth. Lancashire managed to score a goal in the 81st minute, although Portsmouth did come back into the game in the 88th minute. So it'll be interesting to see how they finish the season. And look, it depends what happens with Tottenham Hotspur next season in regards to a lot of our players that are out on loan at the moment, and whether they are indeed going to stay out on loan or whether we are expecting them back next season. So there is a lot riding on the next 7 games, as we all know. In other news, we've heard, so there's a couple of little bits that I wanted to cover. So also, Hojbjerg has been being featured in a lot of press releases recently. Of course, he is currently at Marseille, and he has played under Deserby for the past couple of seasons whilst he was at Marseille. And the news around that was, interestingly, that unfortunately in his last season at Tottenham Hotspur, he kind of dropped off a little bit, and there was a lot of speculation about the performance of Hojbjerg. Obviously, he then went to Marseille. He's been playing under Deserby. He was a player who managed to regain a lot of his confidence and regain that spark again after playing under Roberto De Zerbi. And so there's a lot of hope and expectation that a lot of our other players can also perform under Roberto De Zerbi. And we've heard the news that after the training game, messing up all my words today, but after the training game that was recorded and published all over social media, we know that a lot of players seem very keen and excited to be playing under Roberto De Zerbi, and particularly liked the way that he held his training sessions. So we can hope going forward that that remains the case, and that a lot of our players can keep on thriving, and hopefully we see the best out of them for the rest of this season. There was also news about Mikey Moore, who came out and did a little content preview on the Tottenham Hotspur YouTube channel. There was also clips of it all over Instagram and TikTok. The general news there was actually quite interesting about Mikey Moore because, of course, he's one of our own. He's someone who is highly anticipated as a player when he does or eventually returns back from loan. We have to keep in mind he's only 18 and he still has probably another season in him out on loan, depending again on how the team perform and whether we can stay in the Premier League next season. Speculating that if maybe we did get relegated, then maybe Mikey Moore would be one of the players who would return back to Tottenham Hotspur. However, for now, what was interesting about this, of course, Mikey Moore made his debut for Spurs in the Europa League last season under Ange Postecoglou when he was just 17 years old. Unfortunately, then he went through a period where we didn't hear too much from him. We knew he was injured, but we didn't know quite how or why he got injured. And there was a lot of pressure at the time for Ange Postecoglou to come out and speak about whatever was going on with Mikey Moore. And I think in hindsight, having now heard that Mikey Moore had a heart condition called myocarditis, which is essentially a virus in the heart, we heard that Ange Postecoglou at the time said, look, I come out here and I want to be as transparent as I can, but this is a 17-year-old boy. I don't like talking about what they have and what they don't have. It's nothing serious, but you know, he's 17. We're going to take our time, and I don't like this kind of constant, not from you, by the way, but I've just heard other bits and pieces of people speculating. Come on, I mean, like, if it's your 17-year-old son, you wouldn't want everyone to know what he hasn't or hasn't got. It's nothing serious. It's nothing long term. It's just that he's a young lad and he's only 17. He's a big part of this football club and we will protect him and will be guided by how he feels, how he recovers from an illness. Young people will recover at different rates. He'll be back. He'll still be here. He's part of what we're doing and he'll be back in the next few weeks. But again, he's missed a lot of football. We've got to bear in mind he's 17. So that was Ange speaking back not last November, the November before when he was our manager. And Mikey Moore, unfortunately, at the time was out until about January. So he missed about 2-3 months of the season last year. Of course, there was this sort of preview content behind the scenes of what Mikey Moore's been up to at Rangers. It looks like he's massively loved there. And thankfully, it looks like he's recovered from his virus fully. And hopefully we can see that he starts to kick on, maybe get a couple more assists or goals this season. And he'll be, improving his skill set for when he is ready to come back and take that left wing position at Tottenham Hotspur, hopefully in the near future. There was also other news. Yes, about Romero's dad, who has been coming out. Romero's dad has been coming out and speaking to the Argentinian outlet Cadena 3, and Romero's father confirmed that there is some kind of release clause. Now, of course, we heard speculation that there was a release clause saying that Romero couldn't move on if there wasn't an offer above or below a certain amount. And we've since learned that since his father has come out, he said the English club isn't going to let him go for free. It's between $50 to $70 million, which is the equivalent of 37.8 to 53 million pounds. For me, they want to recover what they invested. Tottenham Hotspur signed Romero from the Italian outlet Atalanta for 43 million in August 2021. And Romero is the club's second most expensive player in history. Well, he was at the time. So he's made over 150 appearances for Tottenham. And of course, he helped us end that trophy drought last season. So from what we can take from this, from what we can hear, look, it's always very funny with these things about Romero, because Romero always says that he can't help who comes out and who talks on his behalf. But of course, something coming directly from his father, and I haven't seen the interview itself. So if anyone has seen it, please do share in the comments your thoughts around this. Because it is very strange that his father would come out and start talking about release clauses. We also saw that Romero wasn't in the training video that came out as well a couple of days ago. It turns out that he had a couple of days off and that was agreed with the previous manager after returning from his stint in the World Cup friendlies for Argentina. So I don't really know what to make of this. I think there's a lot riding on the rest of this season, and we haven't had a game yet. So we don't know how the team is going to come out, how they're going to perform. We could go on a massive bounce, and equally, we could carry on the same trajectory that we've been on, which is quite frankly not winning a game in our last 13. So there's a lot riding on this. I think maybe if a big offer does come in for Romero and he wants to leave come the summer, maybe that does happen. But I think there's going to be a lot of change considering we don't quite know what league we're going to be in next season and how that's going to look. So I think we're going to have a lot more of a better idea of where our squad sits later this season. And I was even contemplating coming on here and doing a bit of a debrief about all of our players and who should we sell, who should we keep. But I think given the fact that we're kind of in this interim period, I don't want to make any hasty judgments about whether our players should be staying or should be leaving next season, because we don't know what league we're going to be in just yet. So hang fire with that one, because when we have more clarity, I will be going through the players in a bit more detail. And lastly, just to finish us off, I did say to you guys that I would come on live because there's a few things I want to test, because we are going to do a watch along for the Sunderland game on Sunday, and I'm hoping that I can get things in the background up and running. So as a second trial for this, because the first one was not perfect, but I'm going to try and keep evolving this, I will attempt to go live tomorrow, and I'm going to time this with an unofficial watch along of the Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich game in the Champions League. Now, of course, we think that Harry Kane is injured, so it's likely that there's not much there's not anything riding on it for Tottenham, but I think it's a good opportunity for us to touch base, see what you guys have been up to, how the vibe is feeling, and to try and test out some of my new kit. Well, there's no new kit, but just trying testing out, how things are going to work for next Sunday to make sure that it's the best viewing experience for all of you. So guys, that's the roundup today. Thanks so much for watching. Please do like, subscribe, comment, and all of that jazz, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for some more content around Tottenham Hotspur. Bye for now.